Okay, we should be back. Okay, I think we're back. Sorry, everybody. It was not... Are we good?
Yes.
Okay, good. Anyway, okay. So I've told you the thing, and okay. Cake, what are your thoughts? I mean, we won't be here all night, but like, I want to hear from some of y'all, and I mean, not that I don't want you. I just wanted to say, like,
because I have,
it's such a big discussion.
I've forcefully shared my opinions many times, but I did take some notes during this because honestly, I do think that there are some things, like you said, that do resonate. And I'll take this out of the quilt world to make my metaphor. But, there's folks that love to go to paint and wine night.
Yeah.
And they get a lot of enjoyment out of it. It's fun. It's a community thing. The thing that they painted looks cute, and they had a good time and they felt creative. And that's really all some people need. And that's great.
Yes.
That's like, and honestly, that kind of stuff is the gateway drug to ramping it up. Do you want to get more into crafts? Do you want to maybe move into some like really serious art? Do you want to start studying stuff?
Gotta start somewhere.
So it always really bothers me when people kind of make that like, oh, you're just slapping shit together, and it's frankly, I have seen some art that is totally slapped together, but it carries an important message. So, but I do think that there is that aspect of it. Hobbyists are hobbyists.
Right.
Right? They're and this maybe gets into that little art versus little A art versus big A art. Just because it's a wine and paint night doesn't mean you didn't make art. You did something creative. Right. Even if you're painting by numbers, you put paint to, so I won't be figured out. But here's the thing that he says. Frankly, Mr. James, because I know he's still alive.
He is. I just saw him. I saw him 2 weeks ago in Lincoln. He was right there.
So he's talking sir, you are talking out of both sides of your mouth.
Oh.
Because on one hand, you say art is about self-knowledge, exploration, and discovery. Why do you have to have a formal education to do that? Art is absolutely about good design, or is it? Does it have to be well designed if it's got an important message that people resonate with? It could be very ugly. It could be poorly designed. That could be the point. And I think you read that piece about language, about learning a foreign language, and you read that the other day, and I remember I had thoughts about that, but I just, and he's sitting here saying, oh, well, quilting is the most democratic of the art forms. He's calling it art form.
Oh, no, you're right. Yeah.
But then he's saying, well, just because it's a quilt doesn't mean it's art. That is absolutely true.
Absolutely. Yes.
That is absolutely true. If you're making a quilt for utilitarian purposes and your intent is, I got to stay warm. I don't care about beautiful. Of course it's not going to be art. It's never going to be art.
Interesting.
But he is doing such a disservice to people that have, I don't want to say you're born with good design, but some people have the ability without formal education to put together things in a way that is good design. It's good to look at. It's thought-provoking, all the things that, so, and I'm using my quote fingers here, that make good art. So now, again, taking it out of here with the quilt stuff and looking at other forms of expression, some people are born with great physical ability, great runner, great at catching a ball, great at throwing a ball, you know? With some formal education, they can improve, but that doesn't mean they don't already have that, So I really feel like hard work and education does not an artist make. Because, sir, you went to Dartmouth. And
I love your throwing shade. You're like, I'm sorry,
quilts
Dartmouth.
are lovely.
This is funny.
His quilts are lovely.
They are.
Some of the things that I heard him say, I'm like, well, dude, you did the same things.
Right.
You painted on your quilt.
Right.
You did all this stuff. And, if you got this point of like, well, all these other people are trying to paint on quilts and they're doing a bad job. you know?
Right.
And so then you got to look at, well, then who's jurying these shows? What is, you know, are they jurying people in that maybe didn't meet the standards of the show?
Right.
So don't yell at me as the artist. Yell at the people who let me in.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. It's very good. So, yeah, it's really interesting. So very interesting comments in the chat, and, you know, hot tea. Hey, Jan, many non-art trained quilters donated money to fund the International Quilt Study Center he helped fundraise for in the 90s. Very, girl.
That's what I do. I invented Post-its.
True. Here's 2 of the takeaways just for tossing out into the discussion for you to think about later, for you to talk with, you know, with the nerds in the Discord and all that good stuff. One of the things that was really interesting to me was that he said, you know, because quilts have been, I've been thinking about this a lot, because quilts have been, you know, denigrated, basically, considered women's work, you know, not given credit for being awesome. And he makes quilts, remember. I mean, he makes art using quilt adjacent. He makes art and he uses quilt techniques that are used in making utilitarian quilts, okay? Stitches, fabric, quilting, okay. They're not made, as far as I know, at least the ones that are made for the museum walls are not made to be used on a bed. So they're art objects. They're made for the purpose of like aesthetic pleasure, okay? But he said, and I read this because he did an oral history thing with at the Smithsonian years ago, and I got the transcript and I read it, and he says the same thing in there, and his point is like, because it's so tender that like, because quilts are so like emotionally sort of resonant and stuff, any criticism, any like formal criticism about like what they look like is like, no, like no, like no, don't come at us with that like critique stuff. Don't be harsh with us. It's like he's basically saying like we're not allowed to be critical in the way that like the art world is critical about art because they're quilts. And on the one hand, he's right, and it's like if quilts like want to be seen as art or whatever, it's like you got to be able to take it, man. In like a critique group where they're like, this is like blah, 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 blah. You got to be able to take that because that's what artists do. On the other hand, what he's doing when he says that is he is putting the art establishment's like process and the higher education, you know, art thing on a tradition that never asked to be there in the first place. So he's like retrofitting some like, I'm going to say it, patriarchal, you know, kind of like he's superimposing the system of art, the art establishment, the art system, the art world. He's putting the art world process on quilts, which did not start as part of the art world process. So on the one hand, he's right because he's saying if you want to be art quilts, you gotta buck up. You gotta like, this is so vulgar, but like grow up hair, you know, like you gotta like toughen up, okay? And when someone critiques you and says that you're not doing it well enough, you gotta be able to handle it if you want to be in this art world. He's got a point. But on the other hand, you know, don't put that shit on me. I don't want to be critiqued in your art world way. I don't want to do that. And I use this term with all seriousness. This is a safe space, okay? Like, this is our space. Like, we have this space. And when listen, the one thing, and again, I agree with many of the things he said, but when he was like, I wonder what quilts could have been if the art quilt people who are trained could have been making their work in the 50s and the 30s and the 50s. And I'm like, dude, women could not study art formally. I think like in France, the Beaux Arts, I think it was like 1873. Before the Royal Academy, it was like 1893, right? Before a woman could go there. So like, you know, like I wish that formally trained artist people were also doing things excitingly in the quilt world, but quilts were only made by women 99% of the time. And they couldn't really go to art school, Michael James. Like, for God's sakes, like, of all of the sort of tone-deaf things that he was accused of saying, that one gets to me. And the thing is, as a person, and I mean, I just gotta say it, as a person who has been vocally critical of a piece of the vast constellation of nuance and like avenues within the quilt like world, you know, I get it that like if you're forceful about something, and what has he said about criticism being like an anathema to people, I understood that. I was like, I criticized, you know, clothes made from quilts harshly. I was funny about it, I was insouciant about it, but I was also like, stop it. This is dumb. I think your stuff is dumb and you're causing damage. And in time we will see that like a great swath of like quilt history was destroyed in the name of fashion. So one person could have a stupid pair of overalls, right? So I was really forceful about it. And so reading this thing, finally, because I'd heard about it, reading the thing, I was like, you know what? I respect him for being like, let me tell you something. This is how I feel about this thing. And I'm not going to mince words. And this is what I think. And I understand that he was like, excuse me, you know, for having just an opinion, just one opinion. Like, it's just, who cares what Michael James thinks? We can reject it all. You can reject what I thought. Anybody can have an opinion. But it is interesting that in the world of quilts and in this sort of, it's like we don't deal with criticism well. Do you think that's fair? I think it's fair.
That is absolutely fair.
Right? What's it gonna do? Is it gonna kill you? No?
No, I feel criticism is important.
Yeah,
and that
okay.
is one of the things that I do feel he has said that is important.
Right, okay.
That is probably the one thing I learned in art school.
Ah,
How to
yes.
take criticism.
Yes.
That's the one thing they taught me. They taught me nothing else.
And yeah, right. And what did you learn about that? Like, what do you know about taking criticism? Like, what do you mean? That's fascinating.
Well, you know, you're never going to please everybody.
Uh-huh.
But when you can get some thoughtful criticism from somebody that, you know, as sometimes it's as, you know, a fellow artist, but also just really kind of as the everyman.
Yeah.
Who can tell you, here's why I did not respond to the message, or here's why I did
Right.
respond to the design or the color, whatever. And it hurts because the art you make it's a piece of you.
Yes.
It's different than things you do for work. You know, you could separate yourself from that as well. I hope you can.
Yeah.
But artwork is different. It is a piece of you. And so you have to learn how to just experience it over and over again and remember that it's not personal, even when it is.
Right. Right. I mean, like, I was an actor for a hot second, and it's like you audition for a part and they don't want you. I mean, it's you they don't want. I mean, like, they don't want your face. Like, it's like, you know, it's very, actors have a hard time of it, and it's the same thing with artists. You're giving your heart and soul, for God's sake.
Exactly. And so it is really hard to receive that criticism. But it's one of those things you just have to practice getting it and grow a thick skin. And,
Exactly.
I mean, I went to art school, my gosh, how many, 30 years ago now? Oh, I feel so old. But yeah, it never gets easier. But you learn how to just be like, you know what, I don't care about your opinion. So what, if your opinion is the thing that kept me out of the show, oh well.
Right.
You
Right.
know, I'll move on and
Right.
I'll apply to the next one.
Yes. And if anybody's ever judged a show, or like, I've done it once, well, 1.5 times, and like, oh my God, it's as much luck and as anything. I mean, I did one show that, I mean, there were like 180 submissions, and like the two other jurists and I, oh God, I mean, at that point you're like, it's work, and you have to parse things away. And if you had, like, I remember in A Christmas Carol, Scrooge, you know, sees the first ghost. He sees Jacob, and he's like, "You're not a spirit. You're a bit of moldy cheese. You know, like an undigested bit of cheese." You know, it's like you have like a sandwich that doesn't sit right. You know, as a juror, you're gonna like not like a particular quilt. You're like, I want to go home. No, you know, I mean, it's really that like chaotic. You know, I mean, it's really just don't take it personally.
Art art is very, like, if you strip away the elitism, the snobbery, the money, because I'll be honest with you, painting and sculpture today is not about whether it's good or it's innovative. It is about the money, because rich people invest in art and
it's a bank.
Period.
It's a place to put their money.
It is an investment. It is nothing more than that. It's not, and I really think the artists that, I mean, boo-hoo, they're millionaires.
Right.
But you think, don't feel so good about your art being in those people's houses, because they couldn't give a rat's poop about you. They care about the money that they've invested in your art and making sure it appreciates.
Yep.
And it's an ugly game.
It's
a very ugly game.
Yeah, and what's interesting, I've been thinking about this too, Steph, is like, you know, this fight for for artists who make work that uses these, you know, characteristics of quilts, right? Stitching, quilting, layering, fabric, and so forth, that references or represents quilts. Okay. This struggle for legitimacy, at times to me, seems like, you know, that I think it's kind of a Jewish mother joke, you know, where it's like, the food here is terrible in such small portions, you know, and it's like this art establishment hates us. We gotta get in there. Like, we need them to love us. Those assholes, you know. It's like, whoa. What do you want with this thing? They hate you, or they don't care about you. You know, why are you trying so hard? But the thing is it's naive to say, you know, like you were saying, Steph, it's like these millions. Oh my God! Like, what did I just see? Some Thomas Eakins painting or something. You know, $65 million. Oh God! You know, you look at the disparity between what a quilt can sell for. Even a G's Ben quilt. I mean, what, like $40,000? It's insane. The disparity, the gulf. You know, it's staggering. It's insulting. It's not even worth mentioning. It's like pathetic, right? The difference between these things. And so it's like, like these people spend all this money on this great art, and it's like, why do quilters want to get in there? Because of that. Because one purchase, if Christie's decides to like auction out, or whatever gallery decides to represent you as an artist who works with the quilts, you know, with the quilt medium, it is life-changing. Of course you want in. Of course you want representation. You could get published in Art Forum magazine. It could change your life, because all of the power rests within that establishment. And so it's like, why do you want in? Like, well, I'm not a working artist, so, you know, but I could probably talk to one, and you know, of course you want in. God, it's where all the candy is. It's where all the money is. And if you want to make your work, you got to play.
Yeah, I'm a 66% of the time working artist.
Yeah.
And I have had my stuff in galleries, and I have at all the shows, and it's hard. It is a grind. It makes you feel, it really, like, it cuts your soul in half.
Yes, she said it. It cuts your soul in half. I mean, to get the blessing of some fancy gallery it would change the life of a person who wanted to make work for a living. So anyway, I mean, it's interesting stuff, right? I mean, I got to wrap it up because, oh my Lord, I've been here so long today. Drew Godmother says, yes, please, yes, of course. If anyone,
I would love to. So I looked him up, and I did share a link with everybody.
Great.
Something that he has contributed to. It looks more like an interview than an essay, but from 2018, looks like he's still kind of spouting the same stuff.
Interesting. Good to know. Yeah.
I didn't read it. I glanced. I didn't read it.
Yeah.
But I think bottom line, the two things I got out of this article that he wrote is, number one, he's congratulated himself. That's all I needed to hear.
He did say, like, he
said,
he did.
I have been instrumental, and it's like, okay, and somebody just said it, like, who made you God? Like, who made you God of the art quilt movement?
Right.
Just because you make art quilts and you were educated at Dartmouth. Yeah. That's what I got out of that article.
Yeah.
Even though, again, there were very resonant things in there.
Yeah.
So I would love to have a conversation with him now.
Yes.
I don't know that I have lunch with him.
Right, exactly. The Marianne Fons lunch. Yes,
your mother's standard.
Exactly.
I don't think I'd have lunch with him.
Yes, the measuring stick.
Of course.
Yes, he's buying. We better. He went to Dartmouth. I've had interactions with Michael James. He was on the board at the Quilt Museum when I was, and I super It was great. It was great because he said some stuff that was really, I didn't like that, but that was a private conversation. I'm not going to. But after reading this and that Smithsonian oral history transcript, like, I kind of want to talk to him now. I do too, Steph. It's like, I want to talk to him because on the one hand, like, he really respects it. He respects the quilt as an object, right? Enough to, like, devote his life to working with its formal properties. But he's coming in with this art establishment perspective. And it covers everything he does. And I've read enough at this point to, like, see that quilt makers before the art world, like, some would say infected it, came in and, like, put themselves all up in it in the quilt making tradition. Quilt makers had their own tradition. Quilt makers still do. The traditional quilt culture really appreciates fine work. I mean, Michael James said, the great stitches and the fancy, embroidery and this, it will get you nowhere if you don't have a great idea. And that's perhaps the case in the art world. It's all about inspiration and, like, the muse and, sort of expression, successful, aesthetically good expression. But in the quilt culture, traditional quilt culture, it was absolutely about how dope you were with your fucking stitches. And it was like, that's what we value, is how much time and care you took with this thing. The idea is great, but, like, are you technically proficient? And that was very valued. And he doesn't care about that. He's, like, literally, like, doesn't matter. And the quilters are like, but no, it does matter to us who started this and who have this thing. We really care about it. And he's like, doesn't matter. So in that way, that's hard. It's hard because it is dismissive. It is dismissive of a culture, the culture from which the art quilt, so, quote unquote, was born. So it's fascinating. If I was just making quilts only, if I had not found this whole, like, gold mine of, like, philosophical, like, art, what is the nature of art conversations, cake, I would have left it a long time ago. Making quilts is amazing. I love doing it. It's this stuff. It's like, what does it mean to be a part of a culture? What does it mean to be a part of a different culture and come in? And you know what? I'm going to say it. I've never thought about it before. Never, until this moment, I have not thought about it. Did the art world colonize quilting? I'm serious. And the C word, man, it gets thrown around a lot. But I mean, listen, and you know what? I saw this note I wrote a long time ago. I forgot about it. But, does the art world objectify quilts in museums, like women's bodies? Do they objectify them like women's bodies, where they hang them and they're, like, completely divorced from, like, anything else? But, like, did the art world, like, colonize quilts? It's a provocative thing to think about. I don't know.
It is a provocative thing to say.
Right. I'll have to think about it, too. Like, I don't know. I don't even know what that means. Hope, also dismissive inspired designs of quilting. I mean, it's really, it's such an, is there a right answer? No, it depends on how you feel about it, but man, it's fun to talk about and think about with you guys. Because I was like, blah, 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 and reading the thing and talking to Kate, I know that the discussion in the chat, every time I even glanced down, yes, Pam, I can. So Pam asked, hey, Mary, can you post these pages in the disco for rereading? I absolutely can. In fact, I gave this, yes, so I put the PDF for this is fascinating, this thing, Framing Quilts, Framing Culture, Women's Work in the Politics of Display, Karen E. Smith, you're the best. And Kate, don't let me forget, but I will, because I'll be here very early in the morning. I will scan the Michael James thing from here, and I will send you the PDF, and you can put it in the disco. That's why you should subscribe to Quilt Nerd. You get this stuff. I mean, and by the way, in terms of, like, copyright and, like, permissions, it would be wonderful if Quilt Nerd were a multinational conglomerate, a publishing empire and powerhouse. It isn't. yet. So sharing this with some folks, like, I don't have a problem with it. I'm not publishing it in a thing. So if anybody's worried about that, thank you for your concern. It's totally fine. But yeah, I want to share it with you. And yeah, that's it. We gotta go. Thanks, Cake. Thanks, everybody. What a great show. What fun. You know, Flax and everything. And this, hey, Kenny. Ooh, yeah.
Flax and rage.
Flax and rage. Okay, we'll see everybody. We'll see you on Tuesday. And subscribe. I'll see the folks tier 2 and tier 3 tomorrow with the bakery. You're gonna be on tomorrow, girl. You'll be on. And then subscribe, and then share Quilt Nerd with somebody. And then also, there's one more thing. I don't know. That's all. That's it. Okay.
Oh, don't forget.
Yeah.
If you're new and want your new member to AQSG, if you want to be a member and you're new, use is it Quilt Nerd 15?
Yep. Quilt Nerd 15. Flax Rage. Yeah. Oh my God, Druid Godmother. Flax and Rage. That's our girl band name. Yes. Druid Godmother. The Cash App. Oh yeah, the Cash App. Hey, why not? Look at that. How about that Cash App? Thanks, Yakamo. That's a great idea to put that up there. Let me just get this. We'll end on that. How about that? Hold on. How do I get myself out? I just want to go away. Okay, yeah. Okay. Thanks, Cake. I will see y'all later, and thank you so much. And that's the show.